Hey guys, Alex here with Heckman Productions and welcome to another video. I feel like it's been forever since I've actually sat down and talked to all you guys just because we've been so busy. We did 5 races in 6 weekends and we've been going to the track pretty regularly in between there, so I just really haven't had time to sit down and discuss things, and so that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to go over the first half of the season. I can't believe the Morelands Under the Lights series is already halfway done. We still got 5 more races to go, but we've already done 5 races. So in this video I'm going to go ahead and recap a little bit, talk about my riding, things that I'm happy with, things that I'd like to improve on, and that sort of nature. So this season I decided to just do 250A for most of the rounds. I did do 14 plus one weekend, but that was only because we had a really small number of photo bundle signups that weekend, so I decided to do the 2 classes. And that also was the same weekend that I wasn't the only 250A rider. Only at round 3 was there another A rider to show up and sign up in 250A. The other 4 rounds I was the only one, so it's been not that stressful racing for me, which is actually kind of nice because we're doing the photos. I'm doing 2 to 3 video edits every night, so it's just kind of hectic, and then not really needing to worry about how I finish is kind of a nice weight lifted off my shoulders. I don't really have to stress and worry about it too much. With that being said, there has been a couple B riders that have been riding really good, and the main one that you've probably seen in pretty much every video because he seems to outstart me every time is Zach Mazareg. He is number 12 on a Kawasaki, and he always starts up front. He's not that much slower than me, but he is in the B class, so we don't really battle a whole lot because we know that we're not. Like when I come up to him to pass him, he doesn't really put up much of a fight because he knows that I'm in A class, so he doesn't really have to worry about it. So I wasn't really sure how this year was going to go as far as signups go because they implemented their new race ready system, which is basically like a transponder system. So instead of doing the scoring by just looking at people's numbers, they have a RFID sticker on your visor, and they have a computer that tracks everybody that goes through positions wise. And because of that, they upped the prices a little bit, and I feel like that might have something to do with why I've been the only A rider except for that 1 round so far this season, just because people might not want to spend that extra money. But hey, that's alright with me. When I'm the only one there, I just get my money back, so I race for free, so it kind of works out in my benefit, I guess. I don't really have to worry about it, like I said before. So coming into the season, I had quite a bit of confidence built up. I just wanted to always be battling the other A riders that were there. I just wanted to make sure that I was there, and then if I could beat them, of course beat them, but I at least wanted to be there with them. And so coming into the first round, I had that mindset of I belong in the very front, and that kind of showed. I didn't get really bad starts in the first round. I actually got pretty decent. I think Zach was the only one who started in front of me in both of them, but I made a pass on him really quickly in both motos just to get to the front. And in the first moto, I just kind of rode around and kept her nice and easy. Like it was, weeks ago now, so trying to remember back is kind of difficult. But the second moto, I did put down a few more fast laps. Coming into the second round, again, I was the only A rider, but Zach was there again. But I had a personal goal. I wanted to get into the 59-second lap times because I had turned a couple 1-minute flats. And funny enough, the track has actually slowed down so much over the past few years just with how Grant has lengthened it, that back when I did C class, I actually turned a couple 59s in a C class race. And then the following year, I got down in the 58s, the low 58s. But then now the track has been lengthened and changed. There's so much more silt in the corners, whereas before it was more hard packed. So now you kind of just get sucked into the corners. So it was kind of a struggle to get under the 1-minute lap time. So that was my goal coming into round 2, and I was able to do that in the second moto. And I came really close in the first moto. I wasn't too thrilled because how close I came. I was like, well, I need to go a little bit faster. So I did that in the second moto and achieved that goal. It felt pretty good to do that. And then round 3 came around, and I was not the only A rider. The other A rider was Jordan Frederick. Learned about him a little bit before we dropped the gate. I wanted to know how much competition he would be, and he turned out to be a really, really tough competitor. I guess he has done a lot of SGAO races and was pretty good at those. He hasn't done a whole lot of racing this year. I think it was either his first or second race of the year. I actually talked to him a little bit after one of the motos. But yeah, and it was actually his first time ever to Morelands, so he wasn't super familiar with what lines to pick. And other than one line, he was taking all the same lines that I did. It worked out that night to where doing the finish line triple was not any faster, so we both just kind of hit that inside. And then other than that, the only line that I was taking that was different was the inside rut before the big double. And that was where I ended up making the pass on the third lap of that moto. And we were really close, riding really fast. He actually got into the 59-second range as well. And then the lap that I passed him, I turned a 59-second lap time as well. So that was a really fast, intense race. But coming off the track, I felt really confident, ready to go for Moto 2. That was also the night that I did 14 plus, and in that class I didn't really have too much to worry about. There were a couple other faster riders, but like they did the jumps, but they weren't quite as. They either did the jumps and weren't quite as good in the corners, or were really good in the corners and didn't do the jumps. So like I didn't really have to worry about it too much. It was more just like a fun race to go out. And in the second 14 plus moto, I have a friend of mine, Devin Staples. He started in front of me and was riding really solid. And since he was a friend, I didn't want to pass him dirty or anything. So I just kind of stuck behind him for a lap and a half and eventually made the pass. And looking back at that race, I kind of have regret because I feel like I should have used that race to learn some different lines to try to find more passing spots so I could look to pass Frederick in the next moto. Because I just kind of had a feeling that I wasn't going to be able to outstart him. And then after I passed him using that inside route, I kind of figured he was going to start using that inside route, so it'd be a little more difficult to find a passing spot. So looking back at that 14 plus Moto 2, the last two laps, I really should have tried some different lines and see what was working and what wasn't, so that I could have tried more stuff in the 250A Moto 2. So sure enough, 250A Moto 2, I did start behind him. We were really close going into the corner, and I let off. I could have been a jerk and just ran it right in there, but I didn't really want to do that. I didn't think it would be worth it to me. It's just a Morelands 250A event. I'm not going for Supercross Championship, so no reason to hit somebody in the first corner. And sure enough, he was taking that inside rut, so I was just following him pretty much everywhere, trying to pressure him. There were a couple spots that I wanted to try to, but it seemed like in all of those spots, he really charged and was able to put a little gap, and then I wasn't close enough to make anything happen. There's a section on the track that I really caught up to him a lot. It was kind of the tight section before the finish line, but there's no room there to make a pass. It's gotten so tight in the past few years that you just can't make a pass there. So I wasn't able to make a pass in those spots. I wasn't able to make a pass at all. Like I said, I was trying to force him into a mistake, and he never made one. He was riding really good and really smooth. There was an incident on the last lap where there was a red cross flag for the double after the big double, and he jumped it and I didn't. And at first I was a little upset about that, because like if that happened in a bigger event, they'd be penalized and I would have won the moto. But when I went and talked to Grain about it, I said, you know what, he beat me straight up. There's no reason to cause a rift and make an enemy for doing that at a local race. So I just asked Grant to talk to him about it, but not to mess with the results. So that's what we did. I ended up doing 1-2 in that. So he won the overall, but we both got our money back because they pay out by moto. That's one of those races where I wish I could have a redo and try something, because I followed him the whole race. I feel like if I would have tried a different line, he maybe would have made a mistake. I don't know. It's so hard to go back and speculate. Hindsight is 20/20. So this would be nice to have that chance again. I was pretty fired up going into round 4 that I wanted to win if anybody else showed up. I really wanted to make sure I got it done in both motos. Came to round 4, and again, I was the only A rider, so didn't really have anybody to fight against in that one. But in that race, we lined up with either the 25 plus or the 30, I think it was 25 plus class, and there was a guy there, Jake Davenport, number 800, that was riding pretty good. He hadn't raced in a while either. It seems like Morelands is a go-to place when you haven't raced in a while and you want to get back into it. But he outstarted me in both motos. Let me go back. I skipped an incident. So in the first moto, he outstarted me, and then we both did the triple together. Then he tried to hit that inside and kind of blew it out, and I was railing the outside, and we came together and touched going off the takeoff of the little double in the back. That was really sketchy and made me yell, but we both were fine. We both didn't crash, so thank goodness for that. Then after that, I was riding a little tight because it made me nervous. I was like, we came really close there, so I didn't really ride too hard in that moto, just enough to keep the lead, and obviously I was the only one, so it didn't really matter anyways. Then coming into Moto 2, I got a little bit worse of a start. I was like 4th or 5th, and then things got shuffled around so much in that first section, and I actually almost went down with Chris Hernandez. He was trying to cut over. He didn't want to get landed on by me or Zach Mazarek, who we both knew were behind him. So he kept cutting over, not realizing that I was right there, and he ended up falling because I was leaned over so far that my tire kicked out his rear tire, and then he fell. So after that, I was in 4th and kind of like, whew, I need to regroup after that one. And I passed Zach pretty quickly. And then about a half a lap later, I was able to pass the Cowie rider that was in 2nd. I actually don't know his name. And then on the 3rd lap, I was able to pass Jake Davenport using that inside rut. And when I did that, I turned either like really close to 59, and then the lap after that, I did turn a 59-second lap time. So I was able to turn on the afterburners and actually dropped pretty much everybody behind me. It was a really good moto. I was flowing really well and just felt confident on the bike and was throwing nice whips over the double. So I was feeling pretty good, and it would have been neat to see if there was another A-rider there, because that was probably the best I've felt all year so far in a moto. So that takes us to round 5, which was probably the most eventful and disappointing round for me, even after losing at round 3. We came into it, they were doing a pit bike race that night, which one of my good friends, Joe Guritz, had an extra pit bike and let me race that in the event, so big thanks to him. That was a really fun time. I was up to actually 5th place in the race, and then the bike like bogged out and stopped running, and so I wasn't able to finish the race, unfortunately, but that was still a super fun time. So thanks to Joe for letting me do that. Then as far as the motos go, the first moto ended up only being 3 laps because they were having some issues up in the scoring tower, and the flagger got signaled it was time to throw the white flag 1 lap too early. So only did 3 laps, and we were actually the first moto of the day that day. And the track was super overwatered and so muddy, and I had to be so tentative in that first moto. And I got a really bad start, had a couple people crash in front of me, and then I was able to pass into 2nd. And if I had another lap, I'm pretty sure I would have passed Zach because he wasn't taking that inside rut, but you never know because you can't go back in time and fix that. So but yeah, I was able to still work my way up to 2nd place. Again, I was the only one in my class, so it didn't really matter that much, but it still is like a thing in your mind where you're the A-rider, you feel like you should be in the lead no matter what. Yeah, I felt like I needed some redemption in the 2nd moto. I didn't really get a chance to do that. I got actually a really good start in that one, and then the rider that started in front of me kind of got hung up, and I slammed right into him because I was committed and had nowhere to go. And so that almost ended up with me on the ground, and I was able to get up, but I was quite a ways back, had more people in front of me than I did in the first moto. So at that point I was like, well, I need to make some passes here, and I was trying to make it happen. And the 2nd lap, we came around with a 25 plus rider, and I tripled up to the inside of him, and then I guess he didn't know I was there because he cut to the inside and we came together, and down I went. It was a good one. It actually broke my Pro Shot mount, unfortunately, which thankfully I had a spare one, so I didn't need to order another one. But yeah, it was one of those racing incidents where it's probably both of our faults. You know, I could have maybe anticipated it and checked up, and he could have held the outside line, but who knows? Like I said before, hindsight's 20/20. It's hard to speculate on that when it's so heat of the moment. You both try to make a split-second decision, and it ends up with you both on the ground, you know? So that was kind of a tough moto. I still got up and was able to finish the race, which my GoPro broke off. So one of my friends, Chris Hernandez, who I had an incident with the weekend before, he came over, made sure I was okay, picked up the GoPro and started filming me around the track and kind of did some vlogging. It was kind of funny. So if you want to laugh, I would go check out that video. So yeah, that was the last moto that I've done so far. It kind of sucks to end it like that, where you end it with a crash, but you know what, it happens. We ended up riding at Big Air the weekend after, and I was able to stay off the ground that day, so I felt like I got a little bit of redemption. But you you know, you don't really get redemption until you go out there and race again. So yeah, that's a recap of the first half of the season. Not a whole lot happened in the beginning, but man, a lot happened in the last round, that's for sure. So I think one of the main reasons why so much more happened in the second half of the first half of the season was kind of due to my starting position. In the first couple rounds, I started more to the outside, which just kind of keeps you out of the chaos if you get a good jump. Even if you don't get a great jump, you're still able to kind of cut inside sometimes, and it works out a little bit better. Whereas the rest of the rounds, I did more on the inside, which is great if you get the hole shot, you can control it. But if you don't, there's so much jostling and you have to check up more. It works out if you can hit the inside of the finish line. If you can do that, it works out great. If there's someone to the inside and you have to go to the outside, then you're screwed. At least that's my opinion. So I always try to avoid that, but that happened quite a few times in the last couple rounds there. So I feel like that's kind of what set me up for abysmal starts to the motos and made me have more work to do. I think I'm going to start going to the outside a little bit more to start my motos to try to just get set up better for the first lap of the race. So I'm pretty happy with how I was able to ride. Like I said, that round 3 Moto 2 of the 250A, I wish I could redo, but other than that, I feel like I've been riding really solid and better than I was last year, which that's always the goal, is to keep improving, and I feel like I've done that. I've made just a little bit of changes to the bike, and I've been able to ride pretty solid and not really out of control at all. I haven't really had any close calls other than, of course, with Cress, and then coming together with that other rider, which had nothing to do, like, it wasn't something I did on my own. You know, I had another rider was involved with that, so it's not like I was riding on the ragged edge and just lost control or anything like that. And one of the big things I wanted to work on improving this season was being smooth in the corners, and I feel like I've been able to do that. I was kind of getting sloppy in them last year, so that was something I really wanted to improve this season, and I feel like I have made gains in that area. Brings me some confidence to be able to maybe go to other races and be able to compete. So speaking of other races, originally I was planning on doing the July 4th weekend at Valley, but then Natalie and I talked and we decided we're going to go ahead and go down and watch the Redbud Pro National instead. We might go do the Friday practice before the race, but we haven't decided on that yet. Another change that I have made to the bike is I changed my gearing quite a bit, like pretty substantial. I wasn't super happy with the gearing that I had, because for all the bigger jumps I either had to be 3rd gear wide open or like 4th bogging. The finish line triple and the double, they both weren't quite wide open 3rd gear, but it was pretty darn close. But the grandstand triple is where I had the most difficulty. No matter, it seemed, if I hit it 3rd wide or 4th and lugged it, I was having such a hard time getting over it the last couple rounds. So I changed my gearing, so I would like to be more in the middle of a gear, like maybe mid 3rd, hitting those jumps, and that way have a little more room for error, be able to maybe throw some scrubs over it, or just carry more momentum around the track is the main goal. And of course, the bike is also going to undergo a cosmetic change. I have brand new graphics on the way and a couple other just tweaks and adjustments that I'm going to be getting made to it. I'm going to have a separate video going over the whole graphics kit and the installation and all the other parts that we're putting on the bike, so I'm looking forward to doing that video. Of course, the graphics aren't quite yet here, so you guys will have to wait to see those. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you'll probably get a sneak peek there. So other than that, I don't think we're planning on going to another race event until round 6 of Morelands, which actually isn't too far away. It's only like 3 or 4 weeks now. It'll be here before we know it, and then we've got 3 weekends in a row, a week off I believe, and then a race, and then a week off, and then a race, and then they're done. So we're already halfway through, kind of hard to believe, but yeah. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video, and I can't wait to try to gain some more speed in the second half of the season and improve even more than we already have this year. So thank you guys for checking out this video, and we'll see you in the next one.